Prabhuji, I will do the Mangalacharan, Prabhuji.
Would you like this thing to be shown?
No, Prabhuji, it's okay. I have it written down. So
Okay, perfect.
अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुश्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णापादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री चैतन्य श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. That was wonderful. Thank you, Gayatri ji. A nice start for our evening session. Hare Krishna, Meena ji. Thank you for joining us. So, Hare Krishna. So with your permission, I will start with a bit of Kirtan and then we will dive into the Krishna book. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Always nice to start, and I'm sure Nagesh Prabhu and myself, this is our regular tune, Hare Krishna tune for our Saturday afternoon Arati, which I normally sing. So just reminded me and sang the same tune. So nice to see Radha Gokulan, isn't it? So just as we just going to dive into this. Hey Krishna, Karna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, Jagatpate, Gopisha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostute, Tapti Ganchana, Gaurangi, Radhe, Vrindavaneshwar, Rishabhan, Sute, Devi, Pranamami, Hari. Jai Prabhupada. As we always, before we start the Krishna Katha, as we always remind ourselves how auspicious it is to listen to Hari Katha. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatuta chartudeham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that after everybody dies, one who's born is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to be born again. But the only exception is that one who's listening to Harikatha, one who's listening to this beautiful Leelas of Krishna. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says it is you carry so much of Sukriti, you get so much of Sukriti, so much of piety, so much of auspiciousness that people who are listening to Krishna's Leelas towards the end of their life, they do not come back into this material world of suffering. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This is a world of suffering. But they will come back, they will go back to the supreme planet of Krishna, which is called as Krishna Loka. What a great benediction it is that we all have, that we've been listening to Krishna Katha for literally for years, and now it is like chapter number 62. We finished it and we are moving into 63. Just kept it at 62 just so that we can just quickly have an overall recap and just go into that. So we're very fortunate, and I feel so blessed to be and humbled to be in the association of such wonderful devotees. We are here in this platform to share with each other. Prabhupada started Krishna consciousness. Basically, it's a worldwide satsang. It's a global satsang of Krishna's devotees. And satsang is so important that with the association of satsangs, there's so much that we can achieve and go higher in Krishna consciousness. So we're very fortunate about that. We have covered earlier in the chapter where we talked about how Banashira's daughter Aniruddha was in love with Usha was in love with Aniruddha. Aniruddha happens to be the grandson of Krishna and Rukmini, and how the beautiful association between both of them. And we've seen also how Banashira was so angry, that Aniruddha was actually come and staying with Usha. And finally, we all know that he is towards the end of the chapter. He went, and even though Aniruddha went and literally, defeated all the soldiers, and he was trying to run away, but with the help of Nagapasha, we've seen that how Banashira went and captured Aniruddha. And again, we had to understand everything is Krishna's Leela, and without Krishna's this thing, not a blade of grass moves. So we can all understand that these are all the Leelas. And so that was what has happened in the previous chapter. And in this chapter, I'm so excited because the real nectar is going to happen now in this. Hare Krishna, Sanchituji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam to all the devotees. Really looking forward to hear this Krishna chapter from you too, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm so equally excited to see this beautiful Leelas. And like we have seen the beautiful love that Krishna and Lord Shiva had for each other. We also seen when Krishna was a small child, Lord Shiva comes to visit and see baby Krishna Balagopala, and we seen how Mother Yashoda was terrified seeing the appearance of Lord Shiva, and she didn't allow him to see Krishna. And we also seen that when Lord Shiva finally leaves that place and Lord Krishna Balagopala, he cries so much that somebody says, like, please call him, call Lord Shiva again back, only then he will stop crying. And as soon as Shiva comes back to see Krishna, baby Balagopala, and immediately Krishna stops crying. So it's a beautiful Leela. And even if you go to Vrindavan, if you go to that place of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda Bhavan, they will show you the place where Lord Shiva was actually waiting to see Krishna. So these are beautiful pastimes. And we also heard from Ramanath Prabhuji, like about Gopeshwar Mahadev, that when we go to Vrindavan, first we should have the blessing of Gopeshwar Mahadev. To be honest, like even when I went to Vrindavan, I was not even aware of it. But now this is what Krishna consciousness done. I went to all the gurus and Goswamis, but I didn't even have an idea of who they were or what it is. But that's the blessing of Vrindavan. So the way I look at it is, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of Radha, Srimati Radharani, we land up going to Vrindavan. And with the blessings of Radharani and Krishna in Vrindavan, we get the association of devotees. And when we get the association of devotees, we get the knowledge of Krishna. And when we get the knowledge of Krishna, with that knowledge of Krishna, again, we go to Vrindavan, and then you will really enjoy the blissful place now, because now you're going to Vrindavan full of knowledge. We're going with knowledge, we're going with a proper understanding who are these Goswamis and why were they in Vrindavan, who's Gopeshwar Mahadev, and why it is so important to have the blessing. So it is a different experience next time when we go after taking the blessings of Radha Gokulam. So the most important thing is the first trip is where you get the blessings, and the second trip is where you go again for having the blessings with all the knowledge. That blessing is important because that's what helps us in getting sadhu sangha. That's what helps us in getting satsang. And that's what helps us in elevating our consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a journey from being Jiva Bhuta to Brahma Bhuta. So purifying. Brahma Bhuta is when you have your consciousness is purified. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Na Kankshati. So it's very important. In the beginning, Krishna says, Mamaivamsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta. Krishna says, all of you Jivatmas, you're part and parcel of me. So, but we are Jiva Bhutas, we are part and parcel of Krishna. But when we get the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then we elevate our consciousness from being from a Jiva Bhuta to Brahma Bhuta. And Brahma Bhuta is a state where Krishna says, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochiti Na Kankshati. We go to that kind of elevated stage where we are above all lamentation or about any kind of a disturbance, because we are no more in the material this thing. We are more elevated our consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So having said that, we just started off with 63 chapter number 63. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. Again, like as we all know, like whenever you have a dash on the top of that, it's like you're stretching the word. So Lord Krishna starts with Banasura, and we also seen that actually Aniruddha was missing. So basically, people in in Dwarka, they were kind of like wondering what happened, why Aniruddha has not come back, and all the people, they could understand by this time that the boy was missing, and Narada came and informed all of them the reason why he's missing, actually because he's been put up in Sonatipura, which just happens to Banasura's empire. Sonatipura is a place where Aniruddha went and was staying with Usha. But again, we all know that it was not that Aniruddha went and stayed with Usha, Banashura's daughter. It was basically Chitralekha, who happens to be Usha's Prime Minister's daughter, Chitralekha. She is the one who did this. She is the one who went to Dwarka by her yogic powers. She went and got Aniruddha. And we also know that Banashura had some Nagapasha powers from Lord Shiva, by which he could use the Nagapasha and capture Aniruddha. And we seen that how all the Yadu dynasties, they were all preparing with all the Akshohini, and into palace. And then we covered like how Banashura heard the soldiers of Yadu were attacking. So he became very angry and he ordered his soldiers. Obviously, there's an enemy who's coming to Sonatipura to go and to conquer them. And so obviously there is a kind of, he's a Kshatriya at the end of the day. So obviously he became very angry and went to face. And then Lord Shiva is something which is very remarkable to see here. One of the name of Lord Shiva is called as Ashutosh, who's someone who gets very pleased very easily. And throughout Sanatan Dharma, we know that while people go to Lord Shiva is someone who's very, very easy to please. And he gives the benediction. He never looks at the ramifications of giving the benediction. He just gives them. For example, he given Banasura 1,000 arms. And Banashura became, and this is what happens. Banashura, when he had 1,000 arms, he didn't know what to do. He couldn't find somebody who could match his strength. So he started hitting the mountains and breaking them. And that's when Lord Shiva says, like, your ego is going to come to an end very soon. So these are all the leelas to be understood, not on a material platform, but on a spiritual platform. But again, you can see that Lord Shiva was so kind to Banashura because Banashura has requested Lord Shiva to protect his kingdom. So Lord Shiva is reciprocating to the kind, to Banashura by showing his kindness, that he became even a commander-in-chief for the military force, and along with his family. It's almost like it's like his whole family was in attendance. Kartikeya and Ganapati and all of them were trained. So we can see a match of from both the sides that's going to happen here. And Lord Shiva with on one side and Lord Krishna on one side, and Balaram, of course. Balaram is also there. And it was so fierce. Nagaraj Prabhu can relate to this. When we were small kids, we used to watch, and even Amok Prabhu as well, we used to watch this Lord Krishna's movie where like the arrows would fly in the air. One arrow is a fire arrow and the other arrow is a water arrow, and they would dash in the air, and whoever is powerful, that arrow would go and strike the other person, kind of thing. So you can find that how Banashura was along with his commander-in-chief and all that, and even Samba, the son of Krishna, we've seen earlier in the earlier chapters how Lord Krishna had 10 children from with each other queen. So you can imagine like what a big family that Lord Krishna had. And one of these sons also was Pradyumna, and then we see like Samba is also one of the son, and he fought on the spot, the son of Banashira. So it was like actually the son of Krishna, Samba, is going fighting with the son of Banashira. And so like that, the fighting was going on, and the news of the fighting spread all over the universe. So you can imagine at that time, the whole world was nothing but it was like the boom of Bharat Bhumi, like everything. The whole planet was called as Bharat Vamsa. So you can imagine, obviously, the fighting was spread all over the universe, and Lord demigods as Lord Brahma from higher planets, along with the sages and saintly person. So we do know from the Leelas, very important for us to keep drawing nectar, and along with nectar, realizations that life is just not on this planet. Many times people go to the higher planets and they just start discovering some things like Mars, and you go to Saturn, Mars, and all these places, and even to the moon. And then you come up with some observation saying that, okay, this is what it, but nobody could just figure out. And it's very important for us to understand from our scriptures that, there are living entities in higher planets as well as in the lower planets. In fact, Krishna says, like, when you do good things in the mood of Sattva-guna, you go to the higher planets and you'll be residing with all the places in the higher planets where all the great sages live over there, So there is a certain result of everything that you do. If you are in the mode of goodness, then you go to the higher planets and then you live with the great sages. So here we can see that in the higher planets, there are people like the Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas. And so maybe something which there's like, where they're staying in the universe, and where with our limited eyesight and things like that, we can't go and figure out which planet and things like that. These are something which is the knowledge which we acquired from reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And all be very curious. So we've seen already in the Krishna Katha that the demigods, they're very curious. Whenever Krishna is doing some Leela, they're just coming and watching, and they're showering petals whenever Lord Krishna goes and defeats all the demoniac people. And we've seen that. So here, even say similarly here, the Lord Brahma and everybody, they're just coming down to see, like, what's happening on this battlefield. And Lord Shiva is called as Bhutanatha because he's possessed by various powerful ghosts and denizens. And we were talking about when recently when we had this great festival happening, Kumbh Mela, how so many agoris and everybody had come, and you find a lot of people wearing the skulls around and all that, and a lot of people are worshippers of Shiva, and we can see that all of them, and they were also like assisting. And then there were Brahmanas who after death have entered the ghostly species of life, Brahma Rakshasas. If you imagine, this is another kind of a people, living entities. So we can see that there are so many different types of living entities. We all know from Srimad Bhagavatam that we got about 8.4 million species, right, of life. And we've seen how Lord Krishna simply drove away all the ghosts away from the battlefield, even they have accompanied Lord Shiva, but with just arrows with the celebrated bow. Shrangadanur and Lord Shiva then began to release his weapons against Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna counteracted all these weapons with counter weapons. So we can get to know, like, where for people who say that all gods are the same, they just don't discriminate. They don't understand that there are people who call it Devatas. The Devatas not in the same line as the Krishnas. And we also know from Bhagavatam about 64 beautiful qualities of Krishna, which even Lord Vishnu has to a certain extent, even though there's an expansion, and Lord Shiva has also got certain extent, but not all the qualities. Krishna has more qualities than anyone else that we can think about. And Krishna himself makes it through Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhuva mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhavan. I'm the source of all the living entities. He mentions of all the Rudras, I'm Lord Shiva. So he's there. He's part of of the creation, part of everyone. But all the energy is coming from him. But he himself has his own distinct personality. And Lord Shiva began to release, and Lord Krishna counteracted all the weapons that came from Krishna with counter weapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra similarly to an atomic bomb with another Brahmastra, and an air weapon with a mountain weapon. So you can imagine that whenever Lord Shiva was releasing some weapons like Brahmastra, he would counter with another Brahmastra and an air weapon with a mountain weapon. And when Lord Shiva released a particular weapon bringing about a violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposite element, a mountain weapon, which shake the hurricane on the spot. And similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted with torrents of rain. This is what I was telling, like, we grew up watching those beautiful leelas of Krishna on a screen, a bigger screen when we were small children. And it is so amazing. And at that point of time, we would wondering, like, is it really true? Or is it because it's a movie? Or like, we were like so amazed to see, how the presentation used to be like, one side there's a snake, and one side there's something else, and there's water and a fire dashing in the air. The arrows would be dashing in the air, but basically the arrows are basically tied. They just kind of like, they invoke the mantras and they release the arrows, and those arrows with the mantra, they just go and hit the target. And also sometimes these kind of a weapons that they use. But we can see from here, like whatever Lord Shiva was kind of like releasing the weapons, Krishna always had was ready to counteract with another weapon. So now I just want to ask if anyone can start reading. Let's do it like a more involved one. Anyone would like to read the first? Take the chance to read.
Yes, I can do that, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hemal Prabhuji, please go ahead.
No problems. At last, when Lord Shiva released his personal weapon, the Pasupata Astra, Krishna immediately counteracted it with the Narayana Astra. Lord Shiva then became exasperated in fighting with Lord Krishna. Krishna then took the opportunity to release his yawning weapon. When this weapon is released, the opposing party becomes tired, stops fighting, and begins to yawn. Consequently, Lord Shiva became so fatigued that he refused to fight anymore and began yawning. Krishna was now able to turn his attention from the attack of Lord Shiva to the efforts of Banasura, and he began to kill Banasura's personal soldiers with swords and clubs. Meanwhile, Lord Krishna's son Pradyumna was fighting fearlessly with Kartikeya, the commander-in-chief of the demigods. Kartikeya was wounded and his body was bleeding profusely. In this condition, he left the battlefield and, without fighting anymore, rode away on the back of his peacock carrier. Similarly, Lord Balarama smashed Banasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbanda, with the strokes of his club. Kupakarna was also wounded in this way, and both he and Kumbanda fell on the battlefield. Kumbanda being fatally wounded, without guidance, all of Banasura's soldiers scattered here and there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we've seen how beautifully this, thank you Prabhuji, it's really wonderful nectar that's flowing. And I can't tell you how exciting I'm feeling inside. It's like really getting goosebumps kind of thing. And one thing I was just remembering, I don't know if you heard about this, like the S-400, which was used for the air-defined system in India, was actually called as Sudarshan Chakra. Have you heard about that?
Correct. That's right. Yes.
The air defense system, it was the one which has actually protected India from getting any of those drone attacks from our neighboring country. So it's basically, it was something which really turned everything in our favor, and it shielded and it protected us. And that S-400, which India bought from Russia, was called as Sudarshan Chakra. Very interesting, isn't it? I was just remembering that. But having said that, so we all know that Lord Shiva has this personal weapon called Pashupatastra. In fact, I think if anyone can correct me on this, or Maga Prabhu or Vrindan Prabhu, but I heard like when Arjuna fought against Lord Shiva was so pleased that he gave him his Pasupati Astra, is what I understand. But yeah, Lord Shiva, that's a great weapon that he has used. But again, Krishna contracted with Narayana Astra. So you can imagine. So through this Leelas, we can understand that the supreme power, everything is coming from Krishna, and he is the one who holds everything. He expands, he gives his power to all the demigods. He is the one who gives the power to everyone, but he is someone whom you cannot defeat, because he is everything. He's the source of everything. Like I was telling, in Vishnu Sahasranama, towards the end of Vishnu Sahasranama, Ratangapane Akshotra, so it's one of the names that Krishna says that whenever he holds something, that turns into a weapon. It becomes as powerful as a weapon, whatever Lord Krishna can take. Krishna may take a wheel from the chariot, but when it gets into the hands of Krishna, and when Krishna starts using it, it can become into a deadly weapon. So anything that Krishna uses, it gets the power from Krishna. That's what the beautiful thing about Krishna. But it's very interesting to note. I heard about many other like bow, arrows, like water arrows and fire arrows. But this is another important, interesting thing to note, that he had something called as a yawning weapon. And when Krishna was using this yawning weapon, the opposition, they become tired and they stop fighting. Obviously, we need to, nobody can fight when he feels fatigue and he feels, tired to start yawning. That's not the time when you would go and fight with anyone. So Lord Krishna used this against Lord Shiva, and he started yawning, and he started refused to fight anymore, and Lord Shiva started yawning and decided not to fight anymore. And then he turns towards other people, because we know that in this battlefield you have Krishna and Balaram headed by the other Yadavas, and then you have over here Lord Shiva and his family, and Banashura and his family, and his king, and his commander in chief, and everyone. So Lord Krishna, so it was a fight which is happening. Lord Krishna now turned his attention towards Banasura, and he started killing his soldiers and everyone. And as we all know, previous chapter we covered about Indrumya. So again, he's again a son of Pradyumna. So here again, Pradyumna was fighting against Kartikeya. And if you recall some few chapters back, which spoke about Kartikeya as well. I don't know if anybody remembers Muchikonda. When Krishna was going and chasing Muchikonda, he got into the cave, and we talked about how Muchikonda was actually given this boon. Kartikeya asked him, like, what, you fought. He told Muchikonda, you fought for all the demigods. Ask me for any boon, but don't ask me for liberation, because liberation only Krishna can give you. And then he asked Kartikeya that, give me the boon that I can sleep for any amount of years, and that nobody should disturb me. And if they disturb me, they're going to be turned into ashes. At that point of him, Kartikeya gives this boon to Muchikonda. If you recall, a few chapters back, we covered that. And that's the time when Krishna goes into the cave, and then he kicks Muchikonda, and who was actually sleeping, and Muchikonda suddenly opens his eyes, and then, so we know this beautiful leela that happened. But here again, Kartikeya was such a great person who could give any material desires like Kartikeya. He was actually, again, he was wounded because he was fighting against Pradyumna. And again, we had to keep in mind, we also covered earlier in the chapter that Krishna's children, whoever is like, the sons of Krishna, they were equally as valiant as well as powerful. And they had all the power, because there's Krishna's sons, so we can imagine they're on a different platform altogether in terms of the power that they have. And so here, that even Kartikeya was no match for Krishna's son Pradyumna, that even he had to leave the battlefield and went. And that everybody has the mouse for Ganapati, and for Kartikeya uses a peacock carrier, and we know that, right? Most of the South Indians know about Kartikeya, especially from Tamil Nadu. They all worship Kartikeya big time. Similarly, Lord Balaram smashed Banasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbhanda, with the strokes of his sword. So we know that Krishna expands from the left. Krishna expands as Radharani, and from the right he expands as Balaram, right? So Balaram is the immediate expansion for Krishna. So he smashed Banasura's chief with the striking, and Kupakarna was also wounded in this way. So both he and Kumbhanda fell on the battlefield. So both of them were basically on the sides of Banasura. Both of them were fatally wounded. And without guidance, all of Banasura's soldiers scattered here and there. So obviously we know that, when the key person in the army, like, commander, if he's been wounded and if he's not in a position to fight, obviously that demoralizes and doesn't give guidance, because it's very, very important, the commander-in-chief, because he's the one who guides and strategizes. The military strategy is done by the commander-in-chief. So now he's fallen flat and does. So the next paragraph, let's see how the nectar is flowing. Anyone else like to? Sritaji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, shall I read?
Yes, please, Sritaji.
When Banasura saw that his soldiers and commanders had been defeated, his anger only increased. He thought it wise to stop fighting with Satyaki, Krishna's commander-in-chief, and instead directly attack Lord Krishna. Now, having the opportunity to use his 1,000 arms, he rushed towards Krishna, I can't pronounce this word, simultaneously working 500 bows and 2,000 arrows. Such a foolish person could never measure Krishna's strength. Immediately, without difficulty, Krishna cut each of Banasura's bows into two pieces, and to check him from going further, made the horses of his chariot lie on the ground so that the chariot broke to pieces. After doing this, Krishna blew his conch shell, Panchayanja.
Panchajanya. Yeah, Panchajanya.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's wonderful. I mean, this is a beautiful conch shell I remembered. So I just, thank you, Sutaji. That's
That's
wonderful.
okay.
It's like we are all taking part in taking a spoon of nectar from the beautiful leelas of Krishna, right? They give so much of joy because it's very important for us to have that personal love for Krishna. All of us should feel like you can only develop love when you feel that this is mine. We know the human intellect works in such a way that when you feel that this is mine, then you start developing when you have love for that this thing. So similarly, when we read the nectar of Krishna and we know how beautiful Krishna is, how powerful Krishna is, then you start developing that love that Krishna is mine. And when we have that personal relationship, Krishna also reciprocates. Ye yatamam prapajyante tam stataiva bhajami. According to how much of faith you have in me, how much of love you have in me, I also reciprocate. So Krishna is making it absolutely clear that love is not one way, it is always two ways. If you show towards Krishna, if that love, and that love can develop, and we know how great Krishna is, we know how powerful Krishna is. We have, like, in material world, if somebody knows the president of a country, or imagine how powerful you feel, like, when I know the president of the country, that's like a very powerful statement. You feel almost carry the power when you say that I know this, the topmost person. So you can imagine knowing the supreme lord of the universe who controls the material world and the spiritual world. And that supreme lord, the beauty thing is, he gets conquered by devotees' love. That he says, like, even though he's the supreme lord of the universe, he gets so happy, even if somebody offering so simple, where he says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayachati. He, with love and devotion, you give me a flower, just give me a fruit, give me a leaf, or just give me some water. I'll be very happy to accept it. So that's the love. So Krishna's love is so easily accessible, but it's because we are struggling because we're covered by this material energy of Maya. So the biggest goal of life to be just to transcend these three modes and reach out to the love of Krishna. So when Banasura saw that, obviously we've seen that earlier Banasura was someone who got very angry when earlier also when Krishna's grandson was just leaving the place, and Aniruddha was leaving the place. So similarly here also he gets angry that all his commanders have been defeated, therefore fallen to the ground. So he started striking against Krishna directly. So you can imagine what a foolish thing to do. Earlier also we seen, if you remember right, many people tried this and they learned the lesson the hard way. We seen that Kamsa was thinking, like, he created multiple levels of security. He got elephants to stamp Krishna. He got great warriors to steal Krishna. He got even wrestlers to attack Krishna, but nobody were found any match. And finally, Krishna took Kamsa and literally smashed him and killed him in nowhere. And we also know that Lord Shiva has gifted Banashira with 1,000 arms. So now, and earlier I was telling you in the previous chapter, it was itching his arms, like, because he wanted to just go and show this 1,000 arms power on somebody. Now Lord Shiva, he was telling him, right, you will get to know, like, in future. So these are all leelas, right? So Lord Shiva would have known that, okay, Krishna is going to come into. So similarly now he started, because he got 1,000 arms, he started striking with 500 bows and 2,000 arrows. Why? Because he got 1,000 arms. So he was just like using all those arms to fight again. But nothing can match Krishna's strength, right? Because he is the source of all the strength. Balam Balavatam, Krishna says, he is the strength of the strong. Immediately, without difficulty, Krishna cut off each of Banasura's bows into two pieces and check him from going for the maid's horses. So obviously, he went and put an end to the horses, and if they fall down, obviously the chariot breaks up into pieces. And then he blew his conch shell, Panchajanya. We all know that. I think for Arjuna it was it Devadatta? That was the conch shell that he used in the beginning. We know before Mahabharat, Mahabharat war it's happened. Krishna blew the conch shell Panchajanya, and Arjuna blew one which is called as Devadatta, I think. So this is what has happened till now. So again, Krishna is already done with Lord Shiva, and now he's going with Banashira, and now we can see that Banashira, how easily he's defeating. So we can find that nobody can be a match for Krishna. Through the Leelas, we can get this knowledge about how Krishna is, how powerful Krishna is. Who's doing the next one? Anyone would like to volunteer?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Would you like to do that, Prabhu?
There was a demigoddess named Kotara who was worshipped by Banasura, and the relationship was mother and son. Mother Kotara was upset that Banasura's life was in danger. As she appeared on the scene with a naked body and scattered hair, she stood before Lord Krishna. Shri Krishna did not like the sight of this naked woman, and to avoid seeing her, he turned his face. Banasura, getting this chance to escape Krishna's attack, left the battlefield. All strings of his bows had been broken, and there was no chariot or driver, so he had no alternative but to return to his city. He lost everything in the battle. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So we can see, when there was a time like in Dwapara Yoga, and we seen in earlier times, like in Satya Yoga, when Lord Narasimha Devi recently celebrated how he gave his darshan, how he appeared from a pillar in Satya Yoga. So we can see that during the time of Satya Yoga, during those times when Dhruv Maharaj, Lord Krishna appeared in front of Dhruv Maharaj, and Lord Narasimhadev appeared before Prahlad Maharaj. So there were at times when there were totally different things happen. In fact, I was just telling in the temple, I come from this place called Vizag, where we have the Simhachalam temple, and it's the only temple in the world where we have two incarnations of Krishna in one deity, Varaha Avatar and Narasimha Avatar. And it is so interesting to know that Narasimhadev personally, he gave this beautiful Archa Vigraha of Varaha Avatar. So it was like those times where Lord Krishna would appear in different incarnations and in front of the devotees and give them that and the blessings and give them the boons and things like that, right? So even the demigods, everybody, even Indra was like you've seen during the time of Ravana also, how he was, even the demigods were scared to just pick up anything with him. That was the kind of a different kind of people. The demoniac people were, they were powerful. The demigods used to get involved. There was so much of relationship that was happening between the demigods. And so here we see that Banashira, who happened to be having a motherly relationship with this demigod called Kotara. And look at how even the demigods were taking sides. But again, like as I said, now nobody comes to match Krishna, but these are part of the Leelas where they're just taking sides. Even, of course, even Lord Brahma can become bewildered. So what to speak of other demigods, right? So he was upset that because she had a motherly relationship, and because she know that Banashira's side has been weakened now with this commander-in-chief gone and Kartikeya leaving the battlefield. Lord Shiva is yawning over there and things like that. So she tried to just come naked over there in front of Krishna, and because Krishna just avoided that, and that helped. It's almost like distracting somebody from killing. So Banashira's life was in danger because obviously Krishna could, if he could defeat Lord Shiva, what is Banashira? Is nothing for a Krishna, right? So, but this demigod Kotara, she tried to help him out by distracting Krishna so that he can just leave. And as we've seen, all his bows have been broken, and so he had to return back to the battlefield. So, anyone like to read the next one?
Hare Krishna book, may I read?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Sanchubuji, this one being greatly harassed.
Being greatly harassed by the arrows of Krishna, all the associates of Lord Shiva, the hobgoblins and ghostly bhutas, pretas, and kshatriyas left the battlefield. Lord Shiva then took to his last resort. He released his greatest death weapon known as a Shiva Jwara. Shiva Vara.
Yeah, Jwara, you're correct. Jwara is correct.
Jwara, which destroys by excessive heat. It is said that at the end of creation, the sun becomes 12 times more scorching than usual. This 12 times hotter temperature is called Shivajwara. When the Shivajwara personified was released, he had three heads and three legs, and as he came towards Krishna, it appeared that he was burning everything to ashes. He was so powerful that he made blazing fire appear in all directions, and Krishna observed that he was specifically coming towards him. Hare Krishna. So
Wow.
here we see the Tandav roop of Krishna, I mean Lord Shiva.
Yeah, the Tandava. Yeah.
Mm.
So we also know, like, Shiva is he's known for this pleasing this thing. At the same time, the Shiva Tandava also Nataraj thing is such an important thing, isn't it? I think if you remember right, I think what I heard is that Nataraj also is one of the manuscripts that have been in the, what is that? Recently, UNESCO has been, it's been included
And Prabhu, it's in Switzerland, Sun, the building, it's in.
in Switzerland, and also recently also Sanchitri, I believe Bhagavad Gita and this Nataraj, something relating to Nataraj, they both have been included in the books of um, just including them in that UNESCO books is what I understand. Recently it has happened. Giving,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, I will let you know that, but it's a memory of register or something like that. UNESCO, United Nations Educational Society, they do have something like that, and these two manuscripts relating to Bhagavad Gita as well as Nataraja, they won't be included, is what I understand recently that has happened. Yeah, so we so we can see that Lord Shiva is actually, earlier Lord Krishna used the yawning weapon, and now being the harassed by. So we can see normally it is so scary to fight against the Aghoris. We know that in India also the Aghoris, they fought against when the Islamic invasion, when it happened in India. They were so powerful. They went in, they literally protected India at that point of time. So they were very powerful, obviously, but they're no match for Krishna's arrow. That when Krishna started using it, they just left the battlefield. And even Lord Shiva started using his final weapon, because it always happens, isn't it? The best of the best weapons, you always reserve them for a final purpose. When nothing works, you know that this is the weapon that you're going to use. This is going to be your last resort kind of thing. So like that, Lord Shiva used this weapon called as Shiva Jwara, which we see that, it becomes 12 times hotter than the sun when more scorching than the sun at the end of creation. Can you imagine what could be the kind of a temperature with just 40 degrees, or even if it goes to 50 degrees, maybe in the African countries, it becomes unbearable. So you can imagine it becomes 12 times, towards the end of creation, means what kind of a heat that it would be generating. And this is 12 times, hotter temperatures called as Shiva Jwara. So you can imagine what kind of heat it generates, that it becomes like almost like, I think it's like I said, again, these weapons are very, very powerful. They're very mystical, and they can take any shape and form. So we can we can see from this one that Shiva Jwara, this weapon, has been personified with hands and legs, and it started going towards Krishna. Because after all, we know in Sanatan Dharma, like even when we see the sun, we know that actually there is a sun god Vivaswan. In fact, the very first time, a lot of people, when I ask this question in the mandir, like I said, like, do you know who Bhagavad Gita was spoken to? And they'll be like Arjuna, and they'll be like Uddhava, and some people will say, like, with Abhimanyu or somebody else, like, they give all the names, Bhishma and all. I said, the first time Bhagavad Gita was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavana I told this Bhagavad Gita first time to the sun god Vivaswan, and he passed it on to Manu. So that's how it has come through. But here, what I'm trying to imply is that we see the sun, but we know that from the Shastra, behind the sun, there is a sun god, a personal sun god called Vivaswan. Similarly, we find that here, even the weapon has taken a personified form, having 3 hands and 3 legs, and it was coming towards Krishna, and so became so powerful. And if it was running in north direction, obviously we can see like how it must have 12 times the power of the sun. You can imagine how it must be really burning, right? Even we find so many forest fires happening because of excess heat and things like that. So you can imagine how. And Krishna observed that it was specifically coming towards him. So we'll see how Krishna is now reciprocating. The nectar continues. Anyone else would like to? Meenaji, would you want to? Sweta, yeah, anyone who hasn't covered?
Hare Krishna.
Just ask me.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, Meenaji, would you like to?
Hare Krishna, you asked me to.
Yeah, I ask you, Meenaji. Yes, if you can. Yeah, I was
Hare
asking.
Krishna.
Yeah, I was asking you, Minaji, would you be able to read? Would you be able to read? I think maybe some audio issue looks like. Maybe we can just park that for maybe for the next paragraph. Gayatri ji, would you like to do?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As there is a Shiva Jwara weapon, there is also a Narayana Jwara weapon, which is represented by excessive cold. When there is excessive heat, one can somehow or other tolerate it. But when there is excessive cold, everything collapses. This is actually experienced by a person at the time of death. At the time of death, the temperature of the body first of all increases to 107 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the whole body collapses and immediately becomes as cold as ice. To counteract the scorching heat of the Shiva Jwara, there is no other weapon but the Narayana Jwara. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ji. It's such a wonderful thing, isn't it? So we come through this leelas, we can understand that Krishna, no matter how powerful, the weapons that Lord Shiva was using, Krishna always had an opposite weapon to counteract. To show his Krishna's supremacy is we can see from this Shiva Jara weapon that he used, and you can imagine 12 times the heat of the sun. You can imagine how hot it must be literally boiling with so much of heat. And then Lord Krishna uses the Narayana Jwara weapon to counteract this. And a nice analogy has been mentioned, right? Like how when the body towards the end, it becomes hot and again just cools down. I was not even aware of that it happens to such a degree that, that it goes up to 107 degrees and then whole body collapses. But like, this is the beautiful thing about, Prabhupada in so nicely mentioning the Srimad Bhagavatam and presenting in such a nice way that for us to understand so easily. So there's no other weapon to counteract, but now there's no better thing than having this Narayana Jwara. So we see that it's going to be used to counteract the Shiva Jwara. Vrindavan Prabhuji, if you want to, would like to, otherwise I will, if you're able to. Vrindavan Prabhuji, would you like to read?
It's okay, I'm not.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to read this one. Therefore, when Lord Krishna saw the Shiva Jwara had been released by Lord Shiva, he had no recourse other than to release the Narayana Jwara, which was like a weapon of, full cold. Lord Krishna is the original Narayana and the controller of Narayana Jwara weapon. When the Narayana Jwara was released, there was a great fight between the two Jwaras. When the excessive heat is contracted by extreme cold, it is natural for the hot temperature to gradually reduce. And this is what occurred in the fight between Shiva Jwara and Narayana Jwara. Gradually, the Shiva Jwara temperature diminished and Jwara temperature diminished, and the Shiva Jwara began to cry for help from Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva was unable to help him in the presence of Narayana Jwara. Unable to get any help from Lord Shiva, the Shiva Jwara could understand that he had no means of escape outside of surrendering unto Narayana, Lord Krishna himself. Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, could not help him, what to speak of the lesser demigods, and therefore the Shiva Jwara ultimately surrendered unto Krishna, bowing before him and offering a prayer so that the Lord might be pleased and give him protection. What a beautiful nectar, isn't it? So we can just, so the thing is, like, we can all have faith in God. We can have faith in Krishna. We can have faith in Shiva. But our knowledge in Krishna consciousness, our faith is backed by knowledge in our scriptures. Our faith is backed by our knowledge in Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna, a lot of people sometimes they say, oh, Krishna went and married 16,000 wives, but they just don't understand that Lord Krishna himself expanded as 16,000 Krishnas. How many people do know that, right? Only when you are reading Bhagavatam, only when you're reading KrishnaBook, when you're reading in the association of devotees, we get this beautiful nectar of knowledge. And even Narada Muni was surprised to see that Krishna was playing chess in Rukmani's house. He was doing something in Satyabhama's house, and again somewhere else he was speaking to some other queen there. So Krishna himself, he is the supreme, he is the origin. Sarvakarana Karanam, right? So right from Brahma to everybody glorifies Krishna because Krishna is the supreme Lord of the universe. Aham sarvasya prabhu mrata sarvam pravarti. He himself declared, I am the source of all the spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from him. Adityanam aham Vishnu. Of all the Adityas, I am Lord Vishnu. Rudranam Sankarascha. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. So all you can see that they're all expansions of Krishna. They are all different personalities, but nobody has those 64 qualities that Krishna has. So no matter how powerful the Shiva Jwara has been released by Lord Shiva, and when Krishna contracted with this extreme cold weapon, it was no match. And we seen, right? No matter how much of fire is there, immediately we start using ice or coal or anything like that. You can just put down the fire. So this was what has happened when both the Jwaras were released. Jwara actually, in our language, in Telugu language, Jwara means fever. Jwaram, we say, right?
Yes, Prabhu, yeah, I was going to add that Jwaram is a Sanskrit word. That's in our Bengali also.
Is it?
Jwar, yeah. So I was going to add that. Yeah, you mentioned it already. So Jwar is a Sanskrit word for fever. Yeah, so we also use that in Bengali. Jwar. Yeah.
What a joy to see, right? How our all
So
language.
that's why Prabhupada has put this analogy. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to add that. Yeah, and Shiva Jwara, when the temperature goes high, and with this weapon, so it's a personified of the fever. I mean, it can be said as a fever personified weapon. It's so mystical, even to imagine in this day. We cannot even think and nobody can even make. Of course, they are making pandemics and things like that, like they are kind of biological weapons. So these were the early biological weapons. So Shiva Jwara is for fever, and Narayana obviously had always the antidote as counter, so as Narayana Jwara, which was for cold. So the body shivers. So yeah, that equates. So these were some biological weapons actually.
Absolutely. That reminds me, Sanjay Didi, I was just thinking the other day when we were talking about Narasimha Avatar, Narasimha, when Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Bhakta Prahalad, he tried so many ways. He got elephants to stamp him. He put him in a pit of snakes. He tried to throw him into the sea. And apparently, I was telling everybody, I come from my native place is the place of Bhakta Prahalad. That's the place where he was thrown into the sea. And that's a place where he got this beautiful vision, beautiful Archa Vigraha, or deity of Varaha Narasimha Avatar, and all these things, all that happened in this particular state. And I was just remembering that beautiful thing that Prabhupada used to mention, Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke. That when Lord Krishna wanted to protect Bhakta Prahalad, Hiranyakashipu, no matter how much he tried, he was not able to kill Bhakta Prahalad. But when Krishna wanted to come as Narasimha Avatar and kill and Hiranyakashipu, nobody could come and save him. It's such an apt, that particular Bengali saying, isn't it? Rake Krishna, Mare Krishna, Rake Ke. So I was just thinking about that. So nobody is a match for Krishna. If Krishna wants to go and put an end, no astra can come in between. So we can see, as Sanjit Maharaj rightly mentioned, Jwara is something like a fever. And when we see fever, we normally say temperature has gone up. So that was what was happening. So here he was having this fire weapon. It was going in such a heat that it was spreading in a personified manner. And Lord Krishna was using the Narayanastra, which was a weapon of cold kind of a thing as ice. So a fight between both of these things. Obviously, the water weapon or the cold weapon contracted this heat weapon, and everything got reduced. And obviously, the Jwara, the Shiva Jwara, which is actually personified weapon of this thing, began to cry and help for Krishna. And Lord Shiva also could not help him in the presence of this. So he had to go and lead him and get the protection of Krishna himself. So from these leelas, we can understand. So we don't blindly say, oh, Lord Krishna is powerful than Shiva, but we say, backed by our most sacred literature, Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Puranas. It's the essence of all the Vedas. It's the most ultimate personification or a personal form of Krishna. And we're getting our knowledge from there. That how Lord Krishna is even, superior. And through the Leelas, we can understand, not just simply with what we are saying, but from the Leelas, from Bhagavatam itself. So Lord Shiva himself could not help, even though he's released this Shiva Jwara. And there was no other chance but to surrender to Narayana weapon. So we'll have to always understand that Lord Krishna, again, we all know that Krishna expands into Balaram and then Sankarishna, and then again, we have Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and things like that. So, but we know that the original source is Krishna. from where all these expansions happen. So ultimately, even the source of the power for all the weapons is coming from Krishna. So I'll just so we just covered up till 9 o'clock. I was just wanted to just park it here. Maybe we can continue with the next, because there is a lot of the nectar is continuing, and we still do have few more paragraphs. This incident of fight. Would you want me to just read one more paragraph, or should we park it here? Hari bol. Meena ji, sorry, we I think you something.
Yeah, I was just lost somehow. My connection was lost.
Yeah, it happens, isn't it? Like, in the internet, it always happens. So I think in the interest of, because we Avisha ji and Meena ji also has just done, I'll just read this one paragraph. If it's okay with you, another 5 minutes, yeah?
Yes,
This-
Go on, go on.
Unless if you want to read, if you're comfortable, you can read as well.
Shall I read?
Yeah, Sweta ji, did you say?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The incident of the fight between the ultimate weapons of Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna proves that if Krishna gives someone protection, no one can kill him, and if Krishna does not give one protection, no one can save him. Lord Shiva is called Mahadeva, the greatest of all the demigods. Also, sometimes Lord Brahma is considered the greatest of all the demigods because he can create. However, Lord Shiva can annihilate the creation of Brahma. Still, both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act only in one capacity. Lord Brahma can create and Lord Shiva can annihilate, but neither of them can maintain. Lord Vishnu, however, not only maintains but creates and annihilates also. Factually, the creation is not affected by Brahma because Brahma itself is created by Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva is created or born of Brahma. The Shiva Jvarathas understood that without Krishna or Narayana, no one could help him. He therefore rightly took shelter of Lord Krishna and with folded hands began to pray as follows.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sweta ji. That was a wonderful read. So like I was saying, I'm just so amazed because frankly, I did not read this paragraph, but I just quoted about Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke, and because Sanchiti ji was there, and I was just quoting that, and I didn't even read this paragraph, to be honest. And this is exactly what is started with this paragraph, right? If Krishna gives someone protection, I was talking about this only. The incident of fight between ultimate weapons of Lord Shiva, it proves that if Krishna gives protection, then no one, if gives someone protection, no one can kill him. Like I was talking about Bhakta Prahlad, there's the best example. When Narasimhadev wanted to save, Hiranyakashipu could not kill him no matter how much he tried. But when Narasimhadev wanted to kill Hiranyakashipu, no one could come and protect him. So this is exactly what I was saying, and I was so amazed to see that that's the sentence which I started with. So that's really nice. So this is what I was telling. And Lord Shiva is called as Mahadev, and he's the greatest of the demigod. But again, this particular paragraph gives so much of clarity, isn't it? So we know that everybody knows that Brahma is in charge of the creation. But again, early in the morning in the temple, you all see that we always sing, right? Govindam Adi Purusham. Govindam Adipurusha Tvamaham Bhajami. Lord Brahma himself is praying to Krishna. You are the first, you are the original, you are the source of all this creation, you have everything. Lord Brahma is considered the greatest of the demigods, and Lord Shiva is, and we all know that Shiva is the Lord of destruction, Brahma is the Lord of creation, but both of them are meant for that particular, they are personified, or they're meant for that particular role of creation and role of Lord Shiva does the Tandam, Tandam, and towards the end of the creation, we all know that about that. But again, they're like Brahma can create, Shiva can annihilate, but the process of maintaining this universe, all that is happening by Krishna, all that is happening by Vishnu. Lord Krishna says, right? Gam avishyaja bhutanam dharaya mahamojasa. I enter into every planet, and by my energy they stay in the orbit. So it is Krishna's energy that's keeping everything going. And he's the one. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivashi Sharanam. So we all know that Krishna is the maintainer. But again, so he does everything. He not only maintains, but he's he's in charge of everything. And it's the creation is not affected by Brahma because Brahma himself is created by Vishnu, and we all know that from the lotus navel of Lord Vishnu, Brahma comes. We all aware of that, and Lord Shiva is created or born of Brahma. So we have the source of this entire creation, everything is coming from Vishnu, and Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna. So we all know that the source is, like again, which I go back to the sloka, main sloka of Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita where he says, Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I'm the source of all the spiritual material. So Krishna himself expands, and then those expansions land up into Garbho Dakshay Vishnu, Shiro Dakshay Vishnu, and that's how he creates those planets from the pores of Vishnu. Millions of universes get created, and then again he enters into each and every planet and is maintaining them. So like this shows, so through this paragraph, we know that even though Lord Krishna, Shiva is there, Lord Brahma is there, but they're never equal to Lord Krishna. And he is the source of everything. They are only designated with certain roles for creation and annihilation, but it's Krishna who's the one who's actually maintaining everything. He's Yolokatrayam Avishya Bibharte Avya Ishvara. Krishna says, I am the one who enters into the three of all these worlds, and I'm the one who's maintaining them. So no one can help them. So Sivajara, the weapon personified, the heat weapon personified, could understand that without Krishna or someone, nobody can help him. So he took the shelter of Lord Krishna and began to pray. So we can find that even though we consider Lord Shiva as the chief of all the demigods, but when it comes to these leelas, we can get to understand that he is nowhere a match for Krishna. And he's the one getting all this. Krishna is in charge of the universe, and he's in charge of the maintenance as well. And even in this leelas of fighting against Krishna, no one comes to any way to match with Krishna. So he began to start offering prayers as well. So we will read those prayers in our next session of prayers of Shivajwara, and how Shivajwara is praying to Krishna. And again, we all seen from the leelas, when you take the shelter of Krishna, then Krishna says, he gives his protection, right? Kaunteya pratijanahi name bhakta pranashiti. Kaunteya, Arjuna, you go and tell the whole world, a devotee of Krishna will never perish, because I will always keep protecting him. And he also mentioned that anybody is eligible for taking Krishna's shelter. Mamhi partha vyapashritya yepisyu papayonaha striyo vaishyastata sudra tepimam paramgatim. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that everybody, even if they may be of the lowest, everybody is eligible to take the shelter of Krishna. And Krishna says everybody is eligible to take to the lotus feet of Krishna. They can worship Krishna, whether they're Sudras, whether Brahmin, anybody can take. And they can, towards the end, they can take to the lotus feet of Krishna, and they can reach to Krishna. So everybody, Krishna always option. Because why? Because he knows that we are all part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna is always welcoming. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita is a personal letter from Krishna asking every Jivatma to come back to him. So everybody. So here we find that Shivajwara is a personified weapon of Lord Shiva, offering our prayers, and which is what we will read in the next paragraph. So I'm so excited. The nectar is just flowing. Imagine Lord Shiva and Krishna fighting, and see the power of Lord Krishna, like how even Banashira, when he came with so many 1,000 arms, 1,000 weapons, is no match for Krishna. Lord Shiva, just a yawning weapon, and now we find Narayana Astra being used. So no way Narayana Jwara being used. So we have to understand through the leelas we speak. When we say Krishna is great, we speak from a point of view of the Shastras. We speak from three angles. We say Krishna, why do we worship Krishna? Because people sometimes, they are so distinct. Oh, why you guys only worship Krishna? Or you don't look up to, I had a friend, an English friend, and he would say like, oh, you always worship Krishna. Why do you guys ignore Brahma? You should worship Brahma also. Like, well, Brahma is also himself is worshipping Krishna. So we are actually, but we have to understand, Lord Prabhupada used to mention, when you have a 1,000 rupee note, a 10 rupees is already there. When you have 1,000 rupees with you, 10 rupees is already there as part of the 1,000. Similarly, when you have Krishna with you, you already have everybody like Brahma and Shiva and everybody, in favor of you. And so you're already pleasing them by worshipping Krishna. When you have Krishna, already all the demigods, everybody is on your side. So you don't need to worry about that. So nicely Prabhupada has given that analogy, and which is what I was just remembering. In fact, I posted on our chat or our WhatsApp group also today about the same thing. So I will stop over here in the respecting all of your time. Your precious time on a weekday is not so easy. So my humble obeisance to each one of you who have taken part. Is not at all easy. Juggling so many things, and I know all of you are like how much hard you work and still taking the time. So I would like to stop over here, and we will going to carry on the nectar of Shivajwara's folded prayers and taking the shelter of Krishna, and we'll see like how Krishna is reciprocating that. Sometimes I just don't read just so that I can just keep the excitement going with all the devotees and be so surprised and excited about reading the nectar. So we all of us are getting a chance to just dip into this nectar and take spoons of this beautiful leelas of Krishna. So any comments, anything before we just close down? Any correction?
Prabhu, and the last no, statement that you made, right? A lot of people have this issue, right? Why you don't worship Shiva and the Krishna. So your statement, I think I just wanted to uh, replay if this statement is right or not. With just wanted your inputs. So we respect all devatas, but we worship Krishna. Is that a statement?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
Yeah,
not to respect any devatas? So
yeah.
because sometimes because of their blessings, we are getting into Krishna, right?
Yeah, absolutely. See, like for example, right, when we pray to Ganesha, it all depends on what you're praying for. Like even when you know that from the gopis they were worshipping, like the demigods as well.
Katyayani.
Yeah.
Katyayani.
Because that was the name of one of my friends. I'm just trying to remember her name. Katyayani. So we were praying to Katyayani, but why they were praying to Katyayani? Because they wanted Krishna as their husband, right? So similarly, when our prayers, let's say for example, even I have Ganesha and I pray to Ganesha, Ganesha, please remove all the obstacles in my Krishna Bhakti, and give me all the knowledge to understand Bhagavad Gita, because he is the one who's written this entire Mahabharata. So Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe, like anything that is related to Krishna, you see, it's fine, So when we are praying, our ultimate aim is for the highest. It's like like I said, Ganesha, we're praying because please remove the obstacles in Krishna Bhakti, So it depends on what we are praying for. If the ultimate goal is Krishna, there's nothing wrong in respecting the demigods or looking down on anything. We don't need to do that. In fact, if you consider Lord Shiva as a head of all the, because again, there's no Sanskrit equivalent word in English. So sometimes we use the word demigod, but people sometimes get offended. But it's not actually to offend anyone or anything like that. There's no equivalent word. For example, in Atma, we say the nearest word, we say spirit soul, So like that, there may not be an exact equivalent word in English, but we try our best to match as much. But again, we know that when we go to Vrindavan, we have to take the blessings of Gopeshwar Mahadev, who's Lord Shiva only. So we're worshipping Lord Shiva so that we can get the blessing, or so that we can have a good trip in Vrindavan, a spiritual listening, and getting the blessings of Radharani and Krishna. So it's all about our intention, about what we're worshipping the devatas for.
Can I ask something, please? I have heard that if you worship Lord Shiva, he shows you the way to the bhakti to Krishna. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. The greatest Vaishnava, as we say, Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava, and he's someone who becomes very pleased, actually. Which is why I was saying, like, if you have 1,000 rupees, you already have 10, which means that if you have Krishna, you already have the blessings of all the devatas. But again, I would like Vrindavan Prabhuji to add. He was saying something. Were you saying something, Vrindavan Prabhuji?
Yeah, I say even when you go to Vrindavan first, beginning, Mathura, go to Bhuteshwar, get permission, then you go to enter in Vrindavan.
Yeah, exactly. So we always have to understand, like I was telling you about the Leela of Lord Shiva coming and waiting to see Krishna. Again, the most important thing is keeping in mind is why we worship Krishna. He's the supreme Lord of the universe. And we know Krishna is called as, all the avatars, we call them as avatars. But again, we call this avatari. Krishna, we call this avatari. Avatari means the source of all the avatars. From him only all the avatars have come. Because why Krishna also himself is saying, right? Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya tuskritam dharma samstapanardaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He's saying, like, I only myself come in different avatars. He's the source of all the avatars. And we've seen in Gita Mahatyam. Gita Mahatyam, what does Lord Shiva is telling Parvati? Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eko Eko Mantrasya Tasya Namani Yani Karma Pe Eka Tasya Devasya Seva. If there is only one supreme Lord whom you have to worship, Lord Shiva himself is saying that is Devaki Nandana, that's Krishna. If there is one book that you have to read in entire Sanatan Dharma, that is Bhagavad Gita. If there is one mantra, that is Krishna mantra. If there is only one karma that you have to do, that is to please Krishna. So Lord Shiva himself is saying in Gita Mahatyam.
Very nicely said, Prabhu. Thank you for the clarification given.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So that's why I always say, like, when we say Krishna, why Krishna is the greatest, like I had friends who we were literally arguing No, Krishna is not the greatest. Kartikeya is the greatest. I mean, you see from the Leelas of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kartikeya literally he had to leave the battlefield because he couldn't face, right, the power over there. So we have to understand, we don't talk just like that from the air. We just know mental speculation. We speak from the Shastras. And we read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam is the ultimate. There's nothing more greater than this. Narada Muni himself told Vyasadeva, you haven't glorified Krishna, you have to go in. And he written Bhagavatam for us to enjoy this beautiful nectar where everything is being mentioned. So Lord Krishna himself is telling in Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, right? Mata Paratam Nanyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya Mayi Sarvam Idam Protam Sutre Manigana. There's so many places in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself told that I am the supreme. Mata Paratam, there is nothing, Arjuna, there is nothing superior to me, Arjuna. Everything is resting on me, Arjuna. This is the ultimate statement for me. Mata Paratam Nanyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya Mayi Sarvam Idam Protam Sutre Mani. Everything, this entire universe, just like a beautiful pearl necklace, we know that it is holding on together because there is a string under it. So similarly, Krishna says, I am the string which is holding this entire universe. There's nothing superior to me. So Krishna is making it very clear. And then again, you have Brahma making it very clear in Brahma Samhita that he is also worshipping Krishna. And then we have Shiva telling in Gita Mahatmya that Krishna is the supreme. And we have in Bhagavatam, Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. He saying like, there also it is mentioned that Krishna, you are the original source of this thing. And then you have devotees like Bhishma Pitamaha in Vishnu Sahasranam, Jagat Prabhum Deva Devam. He says, Pitamaha Bhishma, please tell me who's the supreme Lord. He says, Jagat Prabhum Deva Devam, the demigod, the god of all the demigod, that is Krishna. He is the supreme Lord. Who's telling? Bhishma Pitamaha. Arjuna himself is saying, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramamba in Arjuna. So we are getting our knowledge from Krishna. We're getting our knowledge from the pure devotees of Krishna, and we're getting our knowledge from the Shastras. So ours is like a tripod stand. Our knowledge is based on this tripod stand of the Lord, his pure devotees, and from the scriptures. Sorry, I hope that clarifies a bit.
Last another 10 seconds, Prabhu. You talked about now Krishna first spoke to Lord Vivaswan, sun god, right? So everybody will have confusion how God can speak to a hot, hot fire. But you also suggested that a soul can either be wetted or it can be burnt by fire. So even Surya Bhagwan is also having an atma which cannot be or a sharira that can be sustained in that hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right, Prabhuji, and then it's very clearly, right? We know that there are so many living entities that can survive even in fire, right? So it all depends on what kind of a body that you have. You have a body that's resistant to certain things. How are the penguins surviving in the cold? Because they have been given a certain body that can withstand all that. So similarly, if there is a sun god, obviously he can withstand all that. He's the one who's riding on the chariot of horses, right? We know that from the Leelas of Ramayana also, when Lord Hanuman went to get the knowledge from Lord Surya Dev, and he said, like, I'm already having all the people on the chariot. Then he said, Hanuman said, okay, I will fly along with you, give me all the knowledge. So he flew along with Lord Surya Dev while he was going on the chariot with all the sages, and then he got the knowledge from them. So it's not that we cannot take the heat, but Surya Dev, he's got a certain type of a body that can withstand all the heat. But again, that couldn't be withstood by other people, right? For common people, they cannot withstand Shivajwara. But Krishna can, because he's the source of everything. He's immune to all these things. Source of everything. So yeah. So that's where it is. Any Prindam Prabhu, were you adding something? Or
Prabhuji, my utter request, everyone, and my humble blessings to all devotees.
Yeah.
Just small things, and never mind. Even my Shastanga Dandavat Pranam, all devotees. And one thing that my Ratha Jatra is 27th of June. If you some contribution for Jagannath Ratha Jatra, never mind to this Ratha Jatra. There's 10,000-12,000 people in this Vasatam distribution. I'm requesting to everyone, if you can some small things for contribution for Jagannath.
Okay, Prabhuji. Noted.
Yes, where is happening, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You can do it on Akshri Sangha or in our Sangha. If you can just let us
So
know.
where is happening? It's outside London.
It's in West Bengal that's happening, Meenaji.
West Bengal.
Yeah. It's happening.
Jagannath
Rath Yatra in West Bengal.
Oh, West. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So yeah, I will,
How can we make, like, you
Uh,
asked something?
Give to Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
I
Sham Prabhu.
I think Brindan Prabhu, I will take it offline with you. Maybe if you can give the details, I'll post it on both the channels, and if anybody's interested.
Okay, I send into my bank details.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Just quickly, Vrindavan Prabhu has been organizing this Rath Yatra in Sundarban in West Bengal, that part of the area, like which is like quite backward, I would say, in terms of development, but mostly tribal people and all. So he has been like instructed by Bhakti Charu Maharaj, like, and I mean he had this desire to start Rath Yatra in that area, and with blessings of some devotees over there and local people. Vrindavan Prabhu is also helps from here to organize that Rath Yatra. But of course, anything needs some kind of Lakshmi to make it success for Prasadam and all. So Vrindavan Prabhu is doing it like selflessly for last few years. So yeah, he wants like all of us, if we can contribute some Lakshmi so that he can help the local devotees, and especially that area is like very close to Bangladesh, so there is a lot of Muslim population. So doing that in such an area is not very easy. It's not like a complete Hindu zone. And if you read the news about West Bengal, you know that how quickly it's being like Hindus are like being tortured and so much happening. So in this situation, making a Rath Yatra is like calling the Lord to give His mercy to save our dharma. So we must all generously contribute to help that succeed. And we get Jagannath is always so merciful, so he'll give us mercy and blessings in our spiritual path. So of course we have so much Rath Yatra here, I know, and everybody contributes here and there, but that will be really nice if we can contribute one for India, because it's not a very big one. Big ones do get big donations, but this is a small one. So Prabhu, I mean, on his own, he tries his best from here. And of course, there are people over there, but they are not very, well off. So that's why Prabhu really is requesting. So maybe he's not able to communicate so much. I mean, English he finds tricky, but I thought I'll just, convey his message, Prabhu.
Sure, Sanjay. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
please, Prabhu, you can share his bank details in our group as well as in other groups, so that people who want to contribute can.
You can directly post it in the group, Prabhuji, and we'll put a word. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Prabhu, Vrindavan Prabhu is not in Aksbi Sangha, so I mean, if he gives you, then
I'll post it in both the groups. Okay.
Hare Krishna. And let's all please say 3 loud Hari Bols to Shyam Prabhu for this wonderful, taking us through this wonderful Leela of Lord Shiva. Fight between, like we could easily visualize the fight between Lord Shiva and Krishna. I mean, that's like a Leela. I mean, just for the like, So please, let's all say 3 loud Hari Bols. Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol. Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Bol.
Sham Prabhu, lot of big Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so humbled on a busy big day. You took the time to listen to Harikatha, and the nectar is flowing. This chapter is still there. Lord Shiva and Krishna fighting and this nectar is continue. So please continue joining next Thursday as well. So we will just share this beautiful nectar, and all of us we read, take turns and read together, so that we can all enjoy this beautiful nectar and carry this knowledge with us, so we know that why Krishna is the supreme. Thank you very much. Vanchikalapataribhyasya kripa sindhu.
Chapati Janam
Thank you,
Jai Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Prabhu ki jai.
Yeah.
You.